I want our wines to be pushing towards the edge. If you look at jazz musicians between World War I and World War II, they would probably say the same. They were doing music nobody understood, and for sure they were very, very, very skilled musicians. So they had the same ambitions, but they didn't want to make classical music. They wanted to make, whatever music they wanted to make, and they wanted to represent freedom. For me, that's exactly what natural wine is about. Or let's say if you think about cooking, it's all about picking the right products in the beginning. Cooking is not a recipe, it's tasting and interacting and eating and tasting again, all at the same time. Cooking is intuition. When you cook in that way, when you interact very little, guide the ingredients down their path, the risk for me is much bigger. But when the risk is bigger, so are the stakes and so are the reward. And same goes for winemaking. The less we interact, the greater the wines will be. I realized after the harvest of 2013 that what was meant to be just another small and fun project and a way for me to better understand wine would become a moment of big change, a big change in my life. By the time I began taking these notes in October 2013, I started to see production of wine in another perspective. And I started to taste differently both fermenting juice and wine in general. I knew from experience that these very early stages of learning is often the most important and crucial part of any learning process. I felt it was important not to forget all these small moments, and the people, of course, and the wines that moved me in a certain direction, and helped me to create and discover new layers of wine. Therefore I started filling my notebooks and my jacket pockets with an endless stream of thoughts and small pieces of paper covered with useful and often, I would say, less useful words, practical and philosophical approaches to the making of wine. What's often unclear and ununderstandable in a given moment turns into something much more consistent and obvious when I read my own notes months or even years later. I would say, in other words, they helped me to better understand what was impossible for me to absorb when I was all in the middle of it. A book like this is not giving any answers. It's asking questions, both to myself and to the person reading. The person reading can then find his or her own answers within those questions to myself. That's why I find my own answers.